Hello. Let me start out with a content warning. I am going to get to books eventually, but I'm going to start off with just a little bit of my own kind of life update. Um, yeah, so it's about a death in my family, and if that's not really your thing, and if you're not really up to listening about that at the moment, I totally understand, and you know, head off. At the beginning of March this month, I learned that my mother, who I have not talked to for years and years and years, had passed away. She was in her 80s, um, and yeah, had health concerns and all that stuff, which I won't go into. But yeah, I got the call from my sister, who I also had not talked to in a long time, that she passed away. And that's sort of what's been occupying my mind, my heart for the last while. Um, it's one of these it's one of these things. Because if you've been on this channel, my dog, my Airedale Haley, died a little while ago, and I had a very uncomplicated relationship with Haley. Um, that's probably the attraction of getting to have these furry companions in your life. You have that kind of just very pure kind of relationship with them. And my relationship with my mother, as I've said, I hadn't talked to her for years, was complicated, was really complicated. And, with my family, and in a lot of ways, I'm the difficult one in this equation of, I just didn't feel a part of that family, and stemming out of things that happened when I was was quite young, when I was like a young man, when I was 17, and my father committed suicide, and there was kind of that he was an alcoholic, and there was kind of a code of silence there, which I felt was doing me real damage. That I stepped away from my family, and it really ruptured that relationship, especially with my mother. Um, and I was a lot of it is like I was never able to let that go. Um, and in some ways, I did end up letting it go, because I realized after several tries of reinitiating stuff that I just was not going to get what I needed out of that relationship, that it was only going to cause me um, more heartache, more trouble. And so I stepped away, and so I hadn't talked to her for the longest of times. Hadn't seen her, not since like a wedding, was probably the last time I saw her. um, and it's one of these things of, she's the woman that gave birth to me, and I'm always going to carry her and my father around with me for the rest of my life. I'm going to continue having a relationship with both of them, regardless that they are now both dead. Um, but now, yeah, now she is dead, and I mean, it's one of these things. It wasn't one of these things where I heard the news and I instantly felt horrible regret that I hadn't gotten to say something to her. It's like, I think all the conversations that were going to happen with her had happened. Um, that said, all the conversations that are going to happen um, with myself and how I carry that around with me are there. In some ways, the influence, the things that she was responsible for in my life um, have happened, and now I'm an adult, and the problems that are left are, damn it, those are my problems, not hers, and they haven't been for a long, long time. So, but strangely, it's just one of these things of something about stepping on camera here and chatting to you guys about books, about my reactions, my how I feel about these objects, um, necessitates that I sort of kind of share that. Um, Maybe less for you than it is for me, of like wanting to kind of clear the deck, that I can kind of continue on. It's an odd kind of relationship that you that you and I have. It's very odd, and I struggle with that, and I know that there'd be some people out there that would be quite horrified to think that they would ever want to share something as private as that, um, out in public. And I respect that. I respect that. Um, I think for myself, there's a big part of why I had such a hard time as a young man, is that I've learned a lot of things of kind of the family secrets of being super private, of never letting anyone know what was going on, about kind of shame of alcoholism, shame of suicide, that did me so much damage that unfortunately, I guess, well, not unfortunately, but for me, the best way that I can actually deal with this is to talk openly about it, um, which is what I'm doing here. I think that's about probably all I have to say about it. Um, yeah, yeah, you know, I'm an adult and things are complicated, and hopefully, hopefully, I can deal with it in a way that I'm not gonna, that I can take responsibility for how my life is now, and the people that I love in my life, and and the the family that I have around me, that I know accept me and appreciate me for who I am, and I'm really happy for that. And you know, as for my relationship with my biological family going forward, I guess I will see how that goes. Um, I'm trying to respect. I'm trying to both respect their privacy, but also to understand that I need to talk about this stuff openly for my own well-being. So yeah, yeah, okay. That said, your timestamp there. um, let's talk about the books I'm reading at the moment. Um, God, I probably, it's been a while since I've actually I have like about 1,000 reviews, not 1,000, a few reviews on my uh, on my computer at the moment. The Glass Hotel, the 10,000 Doors of January. Probably not going to review shit, actually. Very entertaining collection of humorous film review essays by Lindy West, all written in the kind of the shadow of the 2020 pandemic, with asides about just how much of a dumpster fire that year was. God, it's behind us, hopefully. Um, and yeah, the Glass Hotel, other things like that, that I probably will hopefully get a review. I will put out some reviews on other thoughts. Maybe I'll just mention it here. Um, I've fallen into an interesting reading project, which is I was listening to David at the Poptimists. He has his uh, top 10 favorite reads of 2020 Dumpster Fire edition. That's probably where Dumpster Fire comes up in this thing, where he kind of listed his top 10 favorite reads. And I kind of left a little, oh, fun, good, thanks for the reads comment. And I kind of embarked on a extremely lazy reading of these, which is basically I looked up those books on my library app, and anything that was an audiobook I've requested, which is probably ended up at about 6 books. I think Dune was on there as well, and I've already read Dune. But yeah, so I've listened to Run Me to Earth, Paul Yoon, which didn't do too much to me, but I know it's really respected. Such a Fun Age, Kylie Reed, which I did a review of and really enjoyed. I thought that was an effective book. And The Biggest Bluff, which is a nonfiction book about a New Yorker, Maria, New Yorker writer who's decided she doesn't know anything about poker, so she took a year to learn to learn poker and like take it all the way. And that's Maria Konnikova, it's an interesting book. It's pushed buttons in me, which it'll be interesting to kind of pull apart of my own. I think I'll be reviewing myself as much as I'm reviewing the book on the idea of gambling, on the idea of self-help books, because it's sort of it's not so much a how-to book as it's a actualizing yourself through poker kind of book, which I have thoughts on, but it's really well written. It's, she's a New Yorker writer, and the New Yorker magazine. And if you're writing at that level, you kind of got it together as a writer. And to come, Butter Honey Pig Bread, which I think is up for the Giller Prize, or shortlisted or longlisted for the Giller Prize. How to Pronounce Knife, and Fleischman is in Trouble. And this has just been kind of an odd project that I've just kind of fallen into, which is like, hey, these are books that David liked. Let's just kind of just say, okay, blindly, let's just request all those ones and see what they're like. Which is, you get these odd whims where you kind of throw yourself into something, and obviously Run Me to Earth wasn't really to my taste, but Such a Fun Age I really enjoyed, and Biggest Bluff it's kind of a book I wouldn't have picked up otherwise. I think David's is into poker, but I know nothing about poker, and I may actively be on the other side of not liking something like poker, kind of just associating with gambling versus a sport of skill. So yeah. On the actual physical side, I have finished Peter Carey's Parrot and Olivier in America. It's a buddy novel of a French aristocrat inspired by Alexander de Tocqueville, he of Democracy in America, and his servant kind of minder Parrot, who is, I believe, just completely fictional, kind of like Dickensian Englishman with an Australian past, because Peter Carey, Australian, you gotta get the Australian in there somewhere, and their kind of travels in the kind of an early, very messily democratic United States. Though it's funny, this is one of these books I think was written. It's like, is it 2009 or something like that? I want to look it up, but it's like well before kind of Trump. But it's one of these books that the messiness of democracy and the dangers of the majority, or even not even a majority, perhaps, in the case of something like the populist movements that we've seen, the right-wing populist movements we've seen in the United States. And at the moment, I am reading for March of the Mammoths, Don Quixote by Miguel de Cervantes. Published in two parts. Actually, it could be even considered two novels. Maybe I'm breaking the rules of the March of the Mammoth. Maybe I'm just reading two novels, 1605 and then 1615. And apparently the 1615 one, the character Don Quixote and Sancho Panza actually are aware of part one, have read part one, or aware of it, and people in it have read it, because it's become it was an instant classic. Don Quixote, instant classic. So yeah, it's kind of like, the original buddy novel, maybe the original novel. And it's funny, it's sad, and it's the story of a man who spends too much money on books and believes in them so much that he imagines himself to be like a character within them, like a knight in one of the chivalric stories that he's read, and he starts seeing the entire world that way. And he's got Sancho Panza, who's slightly selfishly but also kind of compassionately is going along with this dude on his journey, and it's like, it's the cautions of being a booktuber. It's like you're going to believe in these books too much, and you're going to get too far immersed, or maybe it's funny. It's like, if this is the first novel, it's the first novel about a reader and how he imagines, and maybe how he imagines improperly. I've listened to a couple of discussions about Don Quixote, and some people saying like, oh, he's mad, and just kind of leaving it at that. But there's some ways like he's not mad. He is somebody he imagines intensely. And it's like, to have a reader, a story about a reader as the first modern novel is an interesting thing. Someone who's reading and acknowledges the texts, within the story. Like, he lists Don Quixote's library, and which, his friends are kind of going through, and they're deciding, like, what to burn and stuff like that, because this is just, it's had too much of an influence on him. And I'm really, really enjoying it. It's actually um, it's a really good book in its sadness and in its funniness to have as a companion, um, as I'm kind of struggling with stuff happening in my life. It's kind of a comfort read, to be honest, a comfort read about a man sunk into his imagination too much. Uh, it's like, that I can see myself in there. I think if you're a reader, an intense reader, somebody who maybe, has a lot of people around you that say you read too much, that I don't have a lot of people around me, but I hear that in the past, of like, why are you always reading, kind of thing. And it's like, where that Don Quixote is a figure that we can know, and is pathetic, and is hilarious. Yeah, yeah. And go along with this, I'm reading Tarantula Blanc by Jeannot Martorell, who published his book in 1490, and is one of the books in Don Quixote's library, and apparently one of the books in Cervantes' library. Kind of considered, like he said, like one of the best books in the world, kind of a treasury, and all about a knight who lives and dies in bed and writes his will, and stuff like that. And I'm reading that at the same time, and it's nice because it's not supposedly a typical book of chivalry. It's actually quite horrifically bloody and violent in times, and also kind of funny, which apparently is one of the things that Cervantes enjoyed about it. So, but it's a book that was published actually well after the Martorell's death. It was published in 1490, and is one of these books that Don Quixote is reacting to, is springboarding off of. And it's sort of nice to have that little bit of context. I always love kind of saying, like, okay, well, we know Shakespeare, but what about all the stuff around Shakespeare? And it's like, what about the stuff around Don Quixote? I picked up I'm because I'm a cheap ass. There's a abridged version of Tarantula Blanc on Project Gutenberg, translated by Robert S. Rudder, which I guess he completed in 1982, and it stayed on it just languished on his computer, because a more fulsome translation was published around the same time. Oh, actually, no, it was published, yeah, around like in the 90s, as in the was it in the 90s or in the 80s. But he's just sort of let it languish, and I guess he released it to Project Gutenberg because it's actually a modern translation. It's one of these odd things. But his version is about half as long as the original, because it admits the philosophical discourses and some of the speeches, which I know, if I was a purist, I would get the whole 600-page thing. But I'm reading Don Quixote at 940 pages for March of the Mammoths, so I've decided to cheat with Tarantula Blanc and read the version I'm reading is like about 300 and something pages long. And I'm really enjoying reading that. It's a nice counterpoint, because that's while it is funny and bloody and horrific, it does have all that chivalric stuff that Don Quixote keeps on spouting. So it's nice to kind of sink myself into that world. So that's my long ass roundup for where I'm at this point so far in March. My apologies if you ignored my warning, and me talking about kind of, I don't know, you, like, in your life, your major milestones. I think one of the major milestones is when your parents are both dead. it's kind of a brutal thing to say, but it's like, before that, you know, I don't know. It seems like a dividing line to me. Um, I don't know if it will actually be. I don't know if I sort of, there's in one sense, my relationship with my mother ended a long time ago, and this is um, and just some news that I learned over a telephone line one night, and I think it's all still kind of sinking into me. And if you got this far, thank you for indulging me. Thank you for indulging me in this. There's a lot of ways that this for me, booktube is an indulgence. It's a real opportunity for me, and I thank you for that. Even if you're not watching this, I thank you all. All right, more videos later.